Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Club, the show where we play through the games available on Nintendo's various NSO apps completely at random. I'm your host, Derrick Bittner, and in this episode, I'm joined by ExandShadow, otherwise known as Ted, YouTuber, occasional streamer, and member of Brain Scratch Commentaries. How you doing, Ted?
I am doing A-okay these days. You might want to put some, that occasional in caps, because that's extremely occasional streaming. But
Yeah,
I have done it within the past 3 months, so it counts.
Yeah, I figure that works. I mean, you just need another goal, like when you streamed all of Hyrule Warriors until you got everything, maxed out. You just need motivation like that again.
And not to brag, but I'm a pretty big goddamn nerd, so, I don't have to toot my own horn.
Yeah. Not, we wouldn't know anything about that. But also, we are joined by the returning Caro of the C Squared podcast, back after playing Star Tropics last time. How you doing, Caro?
I am great. I'm doing well. I'm sorry. I've had a very long week. I work a lot, but I'm doing as okay as I can be, and I'm just fighting through some brain mush right now. But I've got some furry friends here joining me.
Thank you for taking time away from playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
No problem.
And as you're both likely aware, there are now over 200 games across the NSO, and while some are widely known like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, there are some odd picks that could be considered hidden gems. We honestly don't know. So what we do is enter all those games into a randomizer, pick one, and then give our initial thoughts. And this week, the Wheel of Games has chosen Streets of Rage 2 for the Sega Genesis. Have you both played Streets of Rage 2 before?
Yes, very much yes. I didn't own Streets of Rage 2 growing up, but I was able to play it through later means, like later in life, and I like it a lot. It's one of my favorite Genesis games, and the music is amazing, so I'm excited to go back to it.
Yeah. So I didn't grow up with a Genesis, but I did have a Wii as a teenager, and one of the first games I got using the Wii's Virtual Console service was Streets of Rage 2. So I played that game a lot growing up. I was terrible at it. I didn't beat it until I was in my 20s, but it's awesome. And Streets of Rage 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. And I haven't played Streets of Rage 2 since that came out. So I'm really interested in seeing what it will be like going back in time for that.
Nice. Yeah, I actually have a bit of experience with Streets of Rage 2 as well, and definitely recognize it as a fantastic beat 'em up. I believe this is our first beat 'em up on the show, if I might remember correctly. But it took me a while to get to 2 because I had a friend who also had a Genesis, and he had a bunch of the beat 'em ups. He had Golden Axe and he had the original Streets of Rage, but he never had 2. So I played the original Streets of Rage quite a bit with him, and it wasn't until I got Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection on the PS3 that I finally played Streets of Rage 2, and like, oh, this is really good. And it just I like Ted. I was super excited for Streets of Rage 4. I got to try that at a couple preview events, and there's a lot of good beat 'em ups out there. Streets of Rage 4 might be my favorite. It is fantastic.
I
but
think
2 is still excellent.
Derek, I think you and I played Streets of Rage 4 together at PAX East in 2020, the year before it came out.
I believe so.
I think that was one of the last things I did before I entered a lockdown world.
Oh wow!
Actually, last time I was ever at a convention, and we did play when it came out. Though we did play a little bit together because I had online.
Yeah, dude, Streets of Rage 4 is so good, and it's funny to me that you played Streets of Rage 1 first, because having gone back and played the original Streets of Rage, Streets of Rage 2 is one of the highest jumps in quality for a sequel I think I can remember, out of almost any game.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of many others, because Streets of Rage 1 isn't terrible, but it's pretty damn clunky. And if you're used to any modern or retro even beat 'em ups, it's just not. It doesn't have that same flow.
It's a bit stiff.
Yeah, it's very stiff. Yeah, and Streets of Rage 2, I think, is among the gold standard for beat 'em ups at that time, I would say. Although I've never played Final Fight, I don't know how Final Fight compares to Streets of Rage 2.
I actually played Final Fight for the first
I have
time as
not
part
played
of
that.
Street Fighter 6, and I enjoyed it. I think I'd still put Streets of Rage a little bit higher.
Final Fight's
In that
in
regard.
Streets of Rage, in not Streets of
Well,
Rage. Final Fight's in Street Fighter 6.
there's arcade cabinets that you can
Yeah.
go to, and one of them is the original Final Fight. So,
Yo, that's sick.
yeah, it's pretty neat. They do have a lot. They have a couple of old Capcom arcade games in that. But I guess, Caro, let's ask you this. When you played it, did you play it single player or did you play multiplayer?
I played it multiplayer.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. But I've also played it single player. So I've had my share of both.
Yeah. I've
Definitely, since it's a
mostly-
beat 'em up, I prefer multiplayer, but
Oh, of course. Yeah. It was weirdly enough when it comes to a lot of beat 'em ups, at least early on when I like the Turtles beat 'em ups, I mostly played single player because I just didn't have a lot of friends that came over and at the time and were interested. My sisters weren't interested in games. So it wasn't until later that I got to try some of them multiplayer. And yeah, the game does benefit. There's a lot of fun to be had there, but it's also harder to manage resources because if your partner is not very good, boy, does that make the game difficult.
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah. Who did you play with, Caro? Just out of curiosity. Like, did you play with family?
Friends.
Friends? Okay.
Yeah.
nice.
My family doesn't like video games.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is that only Streets of Rage 2 is on NSO. No Streets of Rage 1, no Streets of Rage 3. And arguably it is the best one, but it's still a little, it's a bit sad that it's not there.
I think 3 is very underrated. I think the problem with 3 is that there's a lot of differences between the Japanese and the English, or the Western versions, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if like other regions like Europe or South America or whatnot had these changes, but there's censorship in all of the games because they really love their Blaze Fielding panty shots. But
But
there's
of
a
course.
lot of change. There's a lot of changes to Streets of Rage 3. Some of them honestly are a little bit warranted. Like, oh god, I forget his name, but the extremely offensive gay stereotype got cut from the English version completely. And he was a playable character too, and I can't remember his goddamn name. Oh god.
I can't remember.
He's got a picture in Streets of Rage 4, like he's in the background of one of the bosses as a painting. But yeah, they cut that. The game's easier, I believe, in the American version.
Yeah.
And there were other changes as well. I think like one of the secret unlockable characters other than that guy is also not available. So I can imagine that like them just not wanting to deal with that and just cut it.
That makes sense.
The Genesis collection that you can buy on Switch has the English and Japanese version of all the games. So if you get that, you can play the Japanese version of Streets of Rage 3. It might also just be like on... Oh, of the character I'm thinking of is Ash, no relation. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, chat.
Thank you, chat.
I forgot about this, but so I actually didn't forget, but our four characters in this game is Axel and Blaze once again. Adam is not here. I forget why, but instead we have Max and Skate as our two new characters. Who do you guys tend to play as?
Blaze.
So as a kid, I always played Skate because he's the only one who can run, and I'm an impatient asshole. Yeah. He also has roller skates, and he's cool. I think Adam was kidnapped by Mr. X, Mr. Z.
I think it's Mr. X,
whoever he's called. Yeah, Mr. X, who's invading all of the Capcom properties. Right? That's Dr. Wily's fake name in Mega Man.
Oh yeah, it is. I forgot about
Mr.
that.
X.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
a popular
It was
name.
intentional. Yeah, I believe he was kidnapped. So yeah, as a kid, I always played Skate, but whenever I went back to it later, I'll play anybody but Axel. Axel sucks. um, Worst character in the game. Fight me, IRL, on the streets of Rage.
I see. I
Well, I
would
never
not.
play as Axel, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I've always went to Blaze because I tend to
Yeah.
like the girl characters in a lot of like fighting games and beat 'em ups because they don't hit as hard, but I like the speed. And
Yes. Exactly.
she hits a little harder, I think, than Skate.
Yeah, Skate was like the high combo count, fast, weak character. So I was very bad at the game as a kid, so I tended to get like mobbed. So I liked being able to run away and kind of regroup. That Skate allowed you to do. He also had this move when you were running where he like jumped into a somersault and then slammed people, which was really neat. And I
Oh
also
yeah.
just loved spamming that.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. I think I actually prefer Axel over Max. I hate slow, powerful characters. Like you hit hard, but it's
No,
so
that's not
slow.
my thing. I need the agility and I need balance. I can't like sacrifice speed for strength.
So the thing about Axel for me that always bothered me is he's not that much faster than Max, but his attacks are so much more awkward to me. Like he doesn't really have reach, but he doesn't hit as hard. Like I would rather he's like this weird middle ground that I don't think works for this particular game. I would rather be because does hit like a truck, especially if you use like the different grapples that he has. He can kill enemies really quickly, and the only thing is that like in between the fighting segments, he just moves really slowly.
Yeah.
Even then, though, I think you can do his like slide kick and you go a little bit faster too. So it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a beat 'em up, so there's not a whole lot to say. So I guess we should save some of this for after we've played it again.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know if I'll be able to beat it because I'm still bad at video games, but I'll try my best.
Well,
I'll
the
try my
fortunate
best.
thing with NSO is you can rewind.
Oh, cheating!
Mhm.
Yes, I
Yeah,
love cheating.
that is allowed here. It says these are games on the NSO, so you can use the NSO features. So if you want to rewind and all that stuff, you can. I probably won't do that unless I'm like right at the end and about to game over or something like that. Because I remember Mr. X being kind of difficult, and I think I played it pretty recently, relatively recently with a patron actually, and I think it was their first time playing it. We managed to, or they hadn't played it too much, but we got to the very end, and you have to fight Shiva before Mr. X, and Shiva is not easy.
Oh yeah, Shiva's an
No.
asshole. Yeah, yeah. It's like you had to fight. I think like a mob of mooks, then Shiva, then Mr. X, and he has like a gun. The only guy smart enough in the game to bring a gun to a fist fight. But yeah, no, I'm pumped. This is like one of the best games I think that we could have rolled. So
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited.
It's not trash. I was so scared we were going to get like some
didn't,
trash or something.
you didn't have trash the last time. It was just a very hard game.
It was just a very dated game, but at least it was charming.
Yes.
doesn't Star Tropics require you to look into its manual for a puzzle at one point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How the hell do you do that?
Which the internet age now, it's fine. But back then,
You have to look it up now, but at least on Wii U, they had a version of the manual that actually they could look up. One of the things I've complained about with NSO is there's no manuals on here. So
Yeah, God forbid, it's 1990 and you rented the game at Blockbuster
exactly
or whatever, Screw, screw you then, I guess.
screwed. But yeah, I guess we will be back in a week, not too long for you all, as after we've played some Streets of Rage 2. So until then, everyone.
Where do we start?
How about his knee?
That's his face. If that's his face, what's this?
And we're back after a week of playing Streets of Rage 2 for the Sega Genesis. It's a beat-em-up classic, but what do we think after playing it this time? Caro, let's start with you. How did you enjoy playing Streets of Rage 2?
It was just as enjoyable this time than it was when I last played it a few years ago. As always, I picked Blaze.
Fair.
She kicks a lot of ass. I love her. So it was just a really fun playthrough. I mean, I played it by myself this time. But yeah, good stuff.
Nice.
Can't wait to like dive deeper into like talking about it.
Right. What about you, Ted? You still enjoy yourself?
Yes. Obviously it's a little bit hard going back to Streets of Rage 2 after you've played Streets of Rage 4. It's still, I still had a great time. The game is still charming. With that said, there are some things about this is actually the first time I actually used the Genesis Switch online. So I had some issues with that, with the platform specifically. And yeah, but I mean, the game's still great. You should definitely play it if you have the chance.
There you go. Huh, I'm actually quite interested in that, in your thoughts on the Genesis NSO, because I've played quite a few Genesis games on here. I've never really felt like I had an issue. So what issues, Ted? I'm curious about that one.
Namely, the number one thing was button mapping, and this is an issue on all the NSOs, but the way that Genesis NSO's button mapping works is that for Streets of Rage, punch was B and jump was A on a Nintendo controller, which is awkward because I'm used to punch being Y and jump being B. I know that like for like NES games or whatever, it's a little bit easier, but I think special's X or something like that. But anyway, the point is that we've had button mapping on official emulators since like the mid 2000s, and I don't know why Nintendo doesn't have that on theirs when they did on the Wii U. I know that you can go into the Switch and like change the entire system's button layout so that like Y is A and whatever.
That's a pain.
Yeah, because trying to get back into the menu with the buttons wrong to fix it afterward sucks, and I hate it. So, and with a game like this, it's frustrating in two ways, because for a game like this, when the controls don't feel right, it's really annoying to play. The second thing is that it's even more frustrating when you know that the controls should work right because you've played them correctly on another platform. Like, I think the Genesis Switch collection, the one you have to pay for, I think that lets you map buttons and it works fine there. So yeah, like, huge pet peeve aside, I think I still do love the game. Like, the atmosphere in Streets of Rage is just 10 out of 10. Perfect.
I find it funny, your complaints, because to me, I didn't have, for whatever reason, I don't have any issue, because I just imagine the Switch controller as a Genesis, where it makes sense. Those three bottom buttons, that's A, B, C. So it just clicks in my head. It's like, that's how it works.
You're old.
Well, yeah, I owned a Genesis,
it's called growing up with Sega consoles, Ted.
Growing up in the past. Cool, I got it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we all grew up in the past. That's a bad...
I was going to say, you probably had a Nintendo console.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm also very picky about these sorts of things. Like, what's that game? Banjo-Kazooie. Playing Banjo-Kazooie on the Xbox, it's definitively the better port. In every single way, but I'm so used to playing it with the weird ass Nintendo 64 controller that playing it with anything else just feels wrong. Granted, Streets of Rage is a much easier like game to play. The button inputs are much simpler, but I also never played the game with a Genesis controller. The way I remember playing the game is with the Wiimote, where 1 was punch and 2 was jump. And then you had to move your left thumb to hit the A button to do the special.
That sounds
which was a little
way
weird.
More awkward.
I'm just trying to imagine it in my head, and it's like complicated.
Well, no, because the buttons that you press the most in this game are jump and punch. You only use the special a tiny bit, because the special eats health and you can't get it back in any way. So I'm a wuss when it comes to the special move. I never want to touch it in Streets of Rage.
I don't touch the special moves in Streets of Rage at all. That kills my health, and I'm like, nope, I need that.
Well, that's why
strategically, when I know I'm at full health and can like get away with it, like maybe if I'm fighting like some of the weaker enemies, but I don't try it like in a boss fight, because
if I'm like surrounded, I'll go for it, because my thought process is I'm spending less health to... It's like an insurance policy where I'm spending a little bit of health now to not take more damage in the future. Um, that's one of the reasons why I love Streets of Rage 4 is that they have like that fighting game fake health mechanic thing where you spend some health to use your special, but if you do enough combos, you can get all that health back. Which is awesome because it allows you to be more aggressive in general. But it's also not exactly fair to compare a game from like 1992 to a game from 2020. So, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Who'd you end up playing as? Since we got Blaze
I
for
played
Caro.
I played as Skate. One thing that I realized though after playing is that Skate, you know, he's who I played as a kid. He's the one I have nostalgia for. He kind of sucks. Like
Oh.
being able to run is great, but you don't really need it. And he just doesn't do any damage. Like he's really, really weak. And he's a lot better from what I remember in Streets of Rage 3. But then again, everybody felt better in Streets of Rage 3, to be fair. I think if I'm gonna play it again, I'm gonna choose Max because Max hits like a truck. And he's got the weird slide attack thing you can do to make it not feel as painful to
move.
To, you know, lumber around the entire stage.
But
Yeah, and I know Blaze is like 2 stars in every single stat, but that's what I like about it because she's pretty well balanced in like every single stat, which like I don't know, with me, I don't necessarily need like one stat to be super advantageous over the other. Like she worked out perfectly with me. It was fine. I got a little bit of the best of everything.
I like Blaze a lot too. The thing about her is that she has a lot of reach. So like her attacks will hit enemies from farther away, which is one of the big issues I have with Axel. Cause like Skate, you can move fast, so you can avoid enemies if you don't want to fight them. And Max is slow, but he's got the longest reach in the game. And Blaze has good reach too. Axel, it feels like he's like, grab the paw, nah. It feels like you have to get so close to do anything with Axel, which is why I've never really liked playing as him all that much.
I actually, I played through the game twice actually. Once by myself,
Ooh,
once
nice.
in multiplayer. Just happened to get a chance for it. And when I did my single player playthrough, I played as Blaze because I think she is by far the best character in the game. She is. I like that.
Blaze is
Yeah,
awesome.
that's right.
I like that equal set. I love her double tap move. So you have that like overhead that you get a little bit of a jump on. So you get a little bit of height to take on certain enemies, hit hard. And it just feels really good to play as her. So when I played through in multiplayer, every time I died, I just switched to one of the other guys. So I started out with Skate, did okay. But my God, you could just tell he just does not do damage. And that got very old. And his double tap move was nowhere near as good. So I was starting to struggle. Then I picked Max. Yeah.
Like, I will say Skate's like moves all look cool. Like when he's jumping on people's head and going like boom, 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 boom. And like the jumping somersault. Like they all look awesome. But they just don't hit for crap.
And Max might hit hard, but my God, just reaching an enemy for anything is rough. So I was just like dying. And then I was like, okay, at least Axel will be kind of even, probably close to Blaze. And I started playing this. I'm like, oh no, this just doesn't, for whatever reason, he just does not feel good to play as. Like I'm whiffing and I just get my ass kicked. I'm like, what is going on here? So
yeah, no, I would definitely agree that Blaze is the best character in the game. I think that's a pretty reasonable take. Who did you play with when you played multiplayer?
Like I said, I started with Skate, then I went to the other two as I lost my game overs because we did not beat it because the game is kind of hard.
Oh, I meant who did you play with?
Why you save stated?
Oh, just a patron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. You can do that on the Switch Online. I always forget.
Yeah, we could have played together if we had found the time. But
man, that's still wild to me.
Fun fact about the multiplayer that I completely forgot about until that point. You can hurt each other easily.
Oh yeah.
That makes it rough.
Yes, you can.
I never got a chance to play many of the like beat 'em up arcade games in an actual arcade. Like I never got to play the Turtles arcade game in an arcade or the X-Men or the Simpsons one. I did get to play the Simpsons one in an arcade, but not with other people. Is Friendly Fire on by default in most beat 'em ups from that time?
Not that I'm aware of, honestly. I don't remember it happening that often.
I don't remember it being a thing in the X-Men arcade game, but that was like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I could be wrong.
I don't remember it happening too often, honestly. Usually it's a toggle. But there is no toggle here in Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. I don't. You see, I'm thinking back. I don't really remember there being Friendly Fire back when I played it multiplayer as a teenager, but that was a long time ago. Maybe we just like always stayed far apart and it never came up.
Yeah, you have to, but it can definitely get tricky for sure. But Caro, you wanted to sort of dive into it. What really stood out about the game coming back to it this time around?
Well, I'm always about like, and I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I'm always about that like atmosphere in video games, and like I think the graphics of Streets of Rage 2, the soundtrack of Streets of Rage 2, it's like the embodiment of like the beauty of 16-bit games in the early 90s, and like I think everything about that game embodies like that. I don't want to overuse the word aesthetic here, but it really is like an aesthetic of that time period that I think has aged well.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
1000% agree. The soundtrack is, I think, among the best on the Genesis. It avoids using that,
twang.
like that instrument set, the twang, for lack of a better word. So it's all really good like Ray's music, which is awesome. I've mentioned Streets of Rage 3 a couple of times. This is like undoubtedly the one area where 3 is not as good as 2, and that the soundtrack's just not very good in 3, unfortunately.
No.
Like 3 is awesome. I think if I were to go if I had to pick between the two as a game, I might even pick 3 but over 2, but I'd say definitely in terms of vibes, 2 is much higher on that list than 3 for sure.
It's like you could tell Streets of Rage 1 had a bit of a clunkier start. Like when I played that for the first time, I was like, okay, that was fine. It wasn't like the best beat 'em up I played, but it was okay. And then you get to 2, I'm like, oh, well, this is a step up. Wow. And then 3 was still fine, but you kind of lose like the grip that 2 had on everything that was going well for it, I think.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then I think one of the things about 1 that 2 definitely does better is that in 1 the characters feel pretty interchangeable. Like I believe they all have stat differences, but it certainly isn't anywhere near as drastic as all the differences between the Streets of Rage 2 characters are. Like they all feel very different to play, which is awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got to give it up for the stage variety because you start out downtown, you have the bridge, you go to the amusement park, which I want to talk about that amusement park, end up at a stadium, get on a ship to go to an island, which you go to the island, and then you're in their munitions plant, then you finally in the stronghold. It's like, it's such a natural, like it makes sense you're going from this place to this place to this place as you're going here. For the most part, it just feels
it's so cohesive.
Yeah.
And it also just, I don't know, there's such a natural ramp up in difficulty, but when I played it, I was like cruising. I was getting a bunch of lives. I was barely dying. I just had it on lock since I had played it before and had a real sense of how Streets of Rage 2 played. But then you get to basically stage 4, stage 5, and all of a sudden they just ramp up the enemies.
Stage
and it's
5
just like, good God.
Stage 5 is the amusement park, right?
Stage 3 is the amusement park.
Stage 5
is the ship.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like,
and then stage 4 is the stadium.
Yes.
And then stage 5 is the ship. Yeah.
I remember as a kid, the area I could never beat is, I think it's the mid-boss halfway through the amusement park, where like you're in like the haunted house kind of area.
The
well, it's
weird
not really like a haunted
alien
house,
thing.
it's like a cave.
Yeah,
like there's like a big swinging thing, and it does so much damage if it hits you, and it's, oh god, it's
it's annoying, but it also, like, it's not even the most annoying enemy in this game. The two worst enemies in this game to fight, I swear to God, is the jetpack dude and the boxer.
Yes. Oh my God, the jetpack was so annoying.
Oh my God. Just hitting
like you get to the end of World 2 and I'm like, how do I beat this guy again? So it took me like a bit, but like, oh jeez.
Yeah, no, jetpack dude's obnoxious. He's obnoxious to hit too, especially that's part of the reason why Axel sucks is because Axel's air moves are garbage. Oh man. You know, those guys are true, but I think the enemy that I've died to the most is definitely Garcia holding a knife like this and just walking into you. Definitely the enemy that's killed me the most amount of times in Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
Fair. I don't know. It's just...
They just have to time it properly.
Yeah, I got this sort
but
of
even that can be tough
kicking.
sometimes when like a lot's coming at you and you just don't see it like coming in. Because like the knife that's like sticking out isn't even too long either. It has such a short range coming out of that enemy that sometimes there might be a lot going on and you don't even catch that like you're getting knifed.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do really like about this game though is that the game's pretty tough, but they don't ever just throw in like 30 enemies on the screen and expect you to just not get hit by any of them. It is usually
single player.
Oh yeah, well, do they up the amount of enemies in multiplayer?
Yeah, like you know how like two of these certain enemies will come in and like played in multiplayer. Here's 4 of them.
Oh, yeah. It's fine. There's 2 of you. You're not getting in each other's way at all.
No, not at all. Sure. But anyway, continue.
With that friendly fire.
Yeah, I was just saying that the game has a pretty fair difficulty curve, I would say. It's still really hard. I'm not great at these games. I still wasn't able to beat it when we were doing our test playthroughs earlier because I'm a coward and I don't want to use save states. I
love how you're a coward for not using save states or the rewind.
Yeah.
But it's right there.
I think the farthest I can get on my own is the elevator in the baseball stadium where you're in the field and then suddenly the elevator goes down. Because I think that's the first part of the game where the big fat guys that go like start showing up. I believe that's their first appearance. And those guys are assholes.
I did it, but I by the end I definitely had to rewind because I made it to Shiva, and
Shiva's an asshole.
Shiva wrecked me, and I just had to rewind, and then of course you have Mr. X, who's not that bad, but he just likes to shoot you with his gun. So
fucking cheater.
Yeah.
I mean, for those sorts of things, like this is true in any sort of game. Where at the end, there's a million games like this where the hard part isn't the very last thing you have to do. It's like thing 3 or 4 cycles back or whatever. So the thing that's nerve-wracking about those is that if you screw up at the easy part at the end, you then have to go back and do that hard part again, which is like, no, thank you. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you beat it, Caro, because you're not too chicken to use the rewind.
A cheat?
No, because like modern technology gives us modern solutions. So for something like this, where I have to beat a game within a limit, yes, I did use it. But I did try to challenge myself to see how far I could go without using those technologies. And like you said, around World 4, World 5.
Yeah.
For me.
I mean, I did not use the rewind functionality at all because I was on my last set of lives because I had got my 2 game overs. I also always make sure to go into the options and up the lives from 3 to 5 because good God.
Yeah.
That's another thing I did.
Yeah.
Because you get the extra 2 lives per continue as well.
Yes. And I managed to make it to the last elevator when you're going up the stronghold. And that's when they start tossing out all the mid bosses at you again. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
And that's when I started dying to those. It's like, okay, I need to start rewinding or else I'm not going to make it to it's like beat this and see the end. And yeah, even in multiplayer, that's as far as we made it. We got that elevator section and eventually died. It just gets too difficult there. Those enemies are hard to hit and they hit you hard. The boxer, granted, I was playing as Axel at the time, so that explains a bit of it. But the boxer in that when we were doing multiplayer took out 3 of my lives.
Damn. Yeah, that guy is an asshole.
Yeah.
He's just because he just grabs you and there's half your health gone. And it's just nothing you could do. Every other enemy I could sort of manage, but it's that damn boxer.
Remind me, in the elevator, are there any convenient trash can turkeys to heal up on?
No, but after you beat each mid boss, you get a little bit of health back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's.
Is Streets of Rage the game that started like the trash can food trend? Because I know that's like a beat 'em up staple now. Is eating fully cooked meals inside people's garbage.
That's a good question, actually. I'm not sure about that.
I would doubt if it's like the first game to do it, but it's certainly one of the ones that popularized the, oh man, look at this, a filet mignon in someone's recycling bin. I'll eat that, thanks.
I wonder if
a perfectly cooked filet mignon.
I wonder if Final Fight did that.
I've never played Final Fight. I have the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection on my Switch, and I've just never touched it.
Honestly, I think you'd like Final Fight. It's pretty fun, but yeah,
I'm sure I would. Yeah, like because Final Fight is pretty similar to Streets of Rage in terms of
you're beating up a bunch of thugs.
I mean, so here's the thing, like. This is coming as someone who's never played Final Fight, but I feel like on a very surface level, like they're both like straight based beat 'em up games, but I feel like Final Fight definitely has isn't as, I want to say the word edgy, but edgy has a slightly different connotation. Mm-hmm. Like Streets of Rage is a bit grittier than Final Fight. Like Final Fight to me has always had a slightly goofier kind of vibe.
Lighter.
I mean, you're literally playing the mayor who's beating up the citizens, beating up all these gangs.
I mean, I say that, and Streets of Rage also has the freaking kangaroo guy. So like Streets of Rage doesn't exactly take itself seriously, either.
There's also the difference of Final Fight was a 1989 beat 'em up, so it is. Yeah, it is one of the earliest of the beat 'em ups for sure.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, I guess River City Ransom might be a little, like, that came out, like, maybe 87, 88.
Somewhere around then.
Mm-hmm. Although, River City Ransom is not my favorite sort of thing. Not a huge fan of that. But that's also a discussion for a different
I think that's also on the NSO, so yeah. Eventually, I'll be talking about that one, but that was also an '89 game. So,
oh, really? It came out that late? Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, Streets of Rage is a bit of a later game, so it has that benefit of taking on some of those progressions that the beat 'em up genre had at that point, and with your special moves and with your your secondary move, like again, thank God for that double tap forward attack button, because that saves your butt with Blaze, and you could do some major damage, clear enemies away. It's really just nice. But when it comes down to it, it is a beat 'em up. There's only so much to say.
Yeah. For sure.
I find the history of the game a little bit interesting, because supposedly, and I might be misremembering some of this, so if anybody has the details and wants to correct me, go for it. If I remember correctly, Streets of Rage was intended to be like sort of Sega's response to Street Fighter, to kind of hit a similar sort of market as that, because Street Fighter was all the rage. So they tried to do like a same sort of street fighting sort of thing, and then it just kind of evolved in a different direction afterwards. I wish I could remember where I had read this so I could double check it, but I can't. So sorry.
It's all good. I'm not positive about that, whether they were doing that. Looking at what I can find in my limited time here. Basically, he was the lead designer, Noriyoshi Oba, was approached about the idea of doing a street fighting game along the lines of Final Fight and Double Dragon, along with Yuzo Koshiro. So basically, like, okay, sure, and they were just influenced by American action TV like Starsky and Hutch and A-Team.
Gosh.
So the big focus apparently was to prevent enemies from swarming them. So yeah, there you go.
Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did not know that, Caitlin, in the live audience. Nintendo had the exclusive console rights to Final Fight.
Oh,
So
Damn.
Sega just had to make
I
their
do.
own.
I do remember that Nintendo did that a lot back in the day, because they wanted to have that stranglehold on the market. So I believe there's a couple of other games as well where Nintendo was like, "You're making it with us. You're making it only with us."
Yeah,
yeah.
that was. It's interesting because SNES came later. Genesis was, I think, beat SNES to release by 2 years. So
Yeah, it was 89, I think.
I think so.
89,
I don't know
90?
I don't know how much there was worth playing before Sonic came out, because like I guess you could play like Altered Beast if you really wanted to. But
No.
yeah.
You can play Alex Kidd.
Oh boy. Oh man.
You don't play rock, paper, and scissors? 'Cause that's the whole thing. That's the whole deal with Alex Kidd.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you could pay $70 for a Genesis game to play rock paper scissors, or hear me out. You have some hands right here. you could use. I don't know.
That seems complicated. That seems complicated. Let's see. It launched in Japan with Space Harrier 2 and Super Thunderblade. Got Altered Beast a month later, and boy, it took a while to get anything. It did get Phantasy Star 2 by March, so there is that.
Yeah. I was just gonna mention that Phantasy Star came out before Sonic, I believe. So.
I've never played it, but Space Harrier is a cool game.
Yeah.
I love Space Harrier. That's
I've
so much
played
fun.
some of Phantasy Star 1, which isn't great. Don't recommend going back to Phantasy Star 1.
I have played this on the show before. I highly recommend Phantasy Star 4, which is on the NSO.
Phantasy Star 4, from what I've heard, is like among the best of that era. Like
it's
up there with like Final Fantasy 6, Chrono Trigger. Like I've heard nothing but great things about Phantasy Star 4, but can't say anything about 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, wait. I do. Apparently, 3 is very bad. That's what I've heard about Phantasy Star 3. Is don't play Phantasy Star 3. I've heard it is very, very bad. I haven't played it, so I don't know if that's true, but
yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we've gotten a little off topic here. Do we have anything else we want to say about Streets of Rage 2?
Me off topic? Never. Good game. I think everybody should play. I think Streets of Rage 2 is definitely one of those games that everybody should play at least once. It's a great game. Also buy Streets of Rage 4. That game's also awesome. Highly recommend that.
There's quite a few beat 'em ups on NSO, and this weirdly enough, I'm pretty sure this is the first one we've gotten, and it's honestly one of the best on the system on the service. So if you have expansion pass, obviously,
Yeah.
Yes.
but yeah. Well, I think with that, I think we've said all we've wanted to say about Streets of Rage 2, but what's our final verdict? Would you recommend it as an NSO or tell people to stay away with an NO no? I think we know what it is, but we got to be formal here. And Caro, let's start with you. NSO or NO no?
Absolutely, yes. Like I said before, really fun game. A period piece of what beat 'em ups in the 90s were like. Love the vibes, love the music, love the action, love the gameplay. Good stuff. Go play it.
What about you, Ted?
What was that you said? NSO?
Yes, NSO.
NSO. Okay.
And no.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with it. Because to me it sounded like you were doing like a cat girl thing, like yes,
no cat girls in this game.
No cat girls in this game. Just wait till Streets of Rage 5, man. But yeah, no. Streets of Rage 2, like obviously it's aged a little bit, but I'd still like I just said. I think it's a game everybody should play at least once. Like super foundational for beat 'em ups and just really easy to play, fun beat 'em up, and I recommend it. It's a good time.
Yeah, 3 for 3. Absolutely. And yes, so it will feel a little stiff going back to it. The characters feel a little stiff, but once you get into the rhythm of that fighting style, it's a lot of fun and it's just a good time. Multiplayer, still a lot of fun, but you got to communicate. You have to be like, you go high, I'll go low, or careful where you throw. You will accidentally grab each other all the time, but it's still fun. You still can have a great time. It's just,
Listen, it's friendship hugs,
Friendship hugs, yeah. It's just unfortunate when you're playing with somebody who's playing Blaze. Some of those characters look like they're just groping her when they grab her. So it's like, no, stop that. No, I don't like it. But what about all of you? Have you played Streets of Rage 2 before, or was this your first time? And before we go, where can everyone find you at? Plug away, Caro. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Caro Tarot with 2 underscores in between Caro and Tarot. I'll tweet about my thoughts on video games. I'll talk about pro wrestling. It's WrestleMania season, so going to be tweets aplenty about that. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Cool. What about you, Ted?
I forgot to plug C Squared.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I was like,
I do this. I completely forgot. My bad. I do a podcast with the great Clement. It's called C Squared. You can find it on his YouTube channel at ClementJ64. Hopefully, we'll be having a new episode very, very soon by the end of this month. And yeah.
Well, there you go. And Ted, what about you?
So you can find me on the Twitter at ExandShadow. That's EXAND Shadow. Definitely not related to any edgy rodents out there. Absolutely not. I also am a member of Brain Scratch Commentaries, where we take Let's Play formats from 2009 and still do them in the year 2024. I also I very, very rarely stream on Twitch. But yeah, that's basically it. I hang around. I lurk. Yeah.
Check them out. And, well, thank you both for joining me. And if all of you joining us enjoyed the episode, let us know in the comments. And please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gbgaming, which includes our live audience tier that will allow you to watch Game Club live as it's being recorded. But now it's time for the Wheel of Games to choose next week's title, as I'm joined by my special guests, Brandon Miracle and Daniel Alba. Are you both ready to see what game we're playing?
I'm hyped and nervous.
Come on, GBA. Let's see what.
Will the GBA finally happen? That is the big question, isn't it? Because, God, it has not happened yet. Oh, God. Well, there's always a little bit of fear when it comes to this, but let's go ahead and spin that wheel and see what we are playing next. And on the docket, we are going to be playing Kid Chameleon for the Sega Genesis.
Kid Chameleon.
Kid Chameleon.
Okay. All right.
I am not sure if you guys have any familiarity with that one. We'll find out at the beginning of next episode for that. But we are back on the Genesis, or remaining on the Genesis in the case of this. So yeah. There you have it. We'll see you next time as we cover Kid Chameleon for the Sega Genesis. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.